So, welcome. Good morning, everybody. In the middle of August, that feels here like the middle of November up here in the Catskills. Some of you are on vacation and doing this writing practice with us as part of your vacation, and others of you are working and in your busy lives. And we're very fortunate to have Dowsett Johnston with us this morning. And she's reminding me that we did an interview together a couple of years ago, and I had forgotten all about that. Anne is both a therapist and a writer and editor, and does consulting with writers. And can I tell them, Anne, that you get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to do all of that? I can't believe it. So to take out time from your busy life is really something. So we're very, very happy to have Anne come and talk to us about memoir writing. Maybe you can fill them in on the parts of introducing you that you'd like them to know.
Thank you, Lynn. It's a real honor to be with your group. And thank you very much for the invitation. It's my passion in life to talk about the intersection of writing and the felt sense, and using our senses to really navigate the story that we need to excavate from our body, from our soul, from our psyche. I was 30 to 40 years a journalist in Canada's version of Time or Newsweek magazine called Maclean's, and I wrote a book. I should back up just for a second. In 1989, I began focusing with Mary Armstrong in Toronto, Canada, where I live. And I learned a lot about focusing, and wanted, with Mary's encouragement, to become a psychotherapist, but I was a single mother and was unable to do that. So I became vice principal of McGill University and had a very different life, very different career. 10 years ago, I wrote a best-selling book that sold around the world called Drink, the intimate relationship between women and alcohol, which broke the story on the alcohol industry, focusing on women, what I call the pinking of the market. And with that published, I was able to go back to school and become a psychotherapist. And so I'm a focusing-oriented therapist. I'm a writer. And I'm also, I run these courses called Writing Your Recovery, which is very much using focusing and the felt sense to find your story. And this session today is going to give you a little mini taste of what it is that I do. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to ground ourselves. We're going to get comfortable in our chairs or on our couch or wherever we're sitting. And we're going to, even though it's very early in the morning here, I know not everybody is in the same time zone, but we're going to take a big stretch and acknowledge that we sit too much, acknowledge that we are seated beings. Maybe roll your neck and really land in this space, in this Zoom room. Really land on your sit bones, if you could, please. All of you will know how to do this well. All of you will know, but I remind my students that this isn't about the head, but what happens in the body. And so we write from the felt sense. So I'm going to close my eyes. I'm sure many of you will as well, or lower your gaze. And I'm going to drop down past the heart, past the lungs, into my belly. And taking a deep breath, I'm going to ask myself a simple question in preparation for writing today. Is there anything coming between me and feeling just fine? Is there anything coming between me and feeling just fine? And because we're human, of course, there are 5, 6, maybe more things coming between you and feeling just fine. And for the purpose of this exercise, I'm going to get you to imagine that you are on a beautiful, beautiful lake. On that lake, there is a dock, a beautiful wooden dock. Kind you go clackety clack down. And attached to that dock are 3 red boats. I want you to take the first thing that you've identified that's coming between you and feeling just fine. And I want you to imagine yourself walking down that dock. Clackety clack, clackety clack, and placing firmly, gently, that thing in one of the 3 boats. It's tethered, it won't float away. You'll go back and get it later. But for now, let's get a little distance. And when you've completed that task, I want you to go back down into your body, please. Past the heart and the lungs into your beautiful, capacious belly. This is no time to hold your stomach in. And take another deep cleansing breath. And ask yourself for a second time, is there anything else coming between me and feeling just fine? And of course there is. It's the nature of being human. And you put your hands around the second thing you've identified, and you know what to do. Go down that wooden dock on that beautiful lake and place the second thing into the second red boat. Firmly, gently, make sure it really sticks. Tuck it away. Maybe under the bow. And when you go back to your body this time, maybe not yet, you may notice, maybe not until after the third thing, that when you breathe, there's a little more space in your middle, in your belly, in your center. Sometimes I feel it's like those beautiful, tiny green shoots of grass in April. There's more space in there. I'm not quite so tight, quite so clogged. And after taking another breath, I want you to drop down again and say, is there a third and final thing coming between me today and feeling just fine. Perhaps it's a tension or a fight or a disappointment. Perhaps it's grief or heartache. It is for me. You wrap your hands around whatever it is. And for a third and final time, you're going to go down that dock, that wooden dock, and place this third thing in the third boat, firmly and gently. And when you return to your body, as I am now, and I guide you to as well, and take a breath, you may notice that there is space. Take a minute to notice the feeling. Something else comes up. Maybe you're a little more relaxed on your chair. Or maybe there's another thing begging to be taken to a boat. Either way, you should have a more grounded sense of being this morning. Slowly, gradually come back to the room. Now, it should come as no surprise that what we put in the boats, those three things you put in the boats, are pure gold when it comes to writing. Pure gold. I often do that exercise with my writers, only to say, writers who say to me, I've nothing to write about. I say, oh, yes, you do. And all of you in this group would know that's true. So that's pure gold. Whatever negative thing you put in, jot down a little note. Much richness there. But that's not what we're going to focus on today. Today we're going to focus on, I have a very brief amount of time with you to tell you how I do my class called Writing Your Recovery. It's an 8-week class, memoir writing class, and people produce books from it, or poetry, or fiction, sometimes fiction. So we're going to go quite quickly through my slides. We're going to get beyond my face. Katerina's helping me because my sharing function is. So here's the wonderful Joan Didion is broken. We tell ourselves stories in order to live, said Joan Didion, and that's her most famous quote. But what isn't in here is that we tell ourselves stories in order to live, she said, by processing the material in your life, by actually putting it. I'm going to go past this poem. It's the closing poem, so we'll go past this poem. By actually putting it down, we get to know what we think about life. We get to know what we think about things. And we'll go past these two as well. Thanks, Katerina. And we'll get to the meat of what I'm going to walk you through. So we've done the felt sensing. We're going to go beyond this into a core quote. There are 3 grand essentials to happiness in life: having something to do, something to love, and something to hope for. So I hope all of you have something to write on. That's Joseph Addison. Something to do, something to love, and something to hope for. So we're going to do the first lesson. We're going to do 3 quick little writing exercises. So the first one is, if there were no pandemic restrictions, or any kind of restrictions in your life, and you could be anywhere in the world, where would you be and what would you do? I want you to write this in free form. We're not going to take more than 4 minutes, but I want you to write this in free form, that you're taking notes that you're going to expand on later if you care to. No going back and editing. Just what would you do? What are you eating? What are you drinking? What are you seeing? Who's with you? Use your senses. And I'll start a 4-minute timer. Just have some fun now that you've cleared your psyche. Okay, we're going to take a little breather on that one. As I said, these are just little things to jot down, and you can have fun with them later. Of course, when I'm in the class, we spend 15 minutes on this. So we'll go to the next one. And we'll skip the Mary Oliver poem, even though it's delicious. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Best line ever. Okay, we'll go forward, Katerina, to the next prompt. Here we go. Let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Write about something or someone you love. And again, no self-editing and going back to be self-critical. You're going to write from your senses, your heart, your center. So we've cleared space. Write about something or someone you love. And again, we're only going to do 4 minutes. This is a taster. Okay. We'll go on to the next one. And we'll skip this John O'Donohue wonderful poem, and we'll go down to the prompt. Write about something to hope for. Again, using your senses. Thank you, Katerina. We can close the prompt. Something to hope for. Okay, and we're going to wrap that one up. So that was just like speed dating. That's just the beginning. So we'll close off the slides. Thank you, Katerina, for the help. So in a very short period of time, you have got a sense of what you put in the boats. You got, and in the prompts, a sense of what would make a significant life. I call that hunter-gathering, hunting and gathering. And if you're a writer, there's nothing better than having a little notebook by your bed so that you're writing your dreams down at night, and a little notebook in your back pocket, in your purse, in your knapsack, to get down every detail that you notice. You're a highly, highly evolved being to be able to focus, to find your felt sense, and to use those beautiful instincts to come to the page with what you're feeling about life is a huge gift. So I'm going to just say as a given, if you were here today on this session, you were already predisposed to write, predisposed to communicate about the human experience. And so I typically teach in 8 2-hour courses that I teach. They're not taped. I don't believe in taped courses. I'm not a fan. I think we need the interconnectivity of being human to have a profound experience. And so I teach in small groups of 8 to 10. And the notion is that you will produce something worth publishing, from a poem to an essay to a book. And having been a writer for the past 50 years, Lynn is right. I get up at 3 a.m. I do my best writing in the middle of the night. I also take a siesta in my day, a siesta that marks the end of my writing and the beginning of my day, when I will meet people, see my clients, have do more hunting gathering like we just did. And so it goes. But given that it's 8:48 here in Eastern time, I thought I'd open the floor to questions before we break out into breakout rooms. Does anyone have any questions? That was almost a brutal experience. It was so fast. But they're treasures. They're treasures, I'm sure, in what you've written down.
When do you hunt and gather in terms of the material?
Right.
Does it have to be what touches you, or you always have to go to your felt sense about it?
No. So imagine that you are standing in a lineup in a coffee shop, and the couple in front of you is having an argument. Bingo, beautiful, dialogue, exquisite. What did he say? What did she say? You wake up in the night with a nightmare about your father. You write it down. I write a document that's very long, and then I edit it. And it could be pulled from my life. So I turned 70 last week, and I wrote a piece called After the Fall. And it's about a terrible fall I took a month ago, and how I'm teetering on old age. I sort of think of myself as being in the kindergarten of being elderly right now at 70. And it's all about teetering as we teeter in life, with each decade. I'm teetering into, my 8th decade. And I described this terrible fall I took, and then another fall where I ended up in a wheelchair. And so I call it quilting. What you wrote down in those 3 prompts I gave, if you were to take my class, we would call it a quilt square. Whatever you wrote, you probably, what do you hope for? You probably, or where do you want to go? Probably wrote an image, and you develop that into a little quilt square. And my book, Drink, is made up of the whole series of quilt squares, of images, stories, interviewing other people. So you begin with a little one, take the thing that you like the best from this morning, the thing that speaks to you most in your soul, and develop into 500 words. And then I'll put my email here. Send it to me. I'll send you something back and tell you whether it works or how it could be better. And that's writing. That's writing. And, there's nothing like the tyranny of the blank page. You just don't want a blank page, because that's I've suffered from years of writer's block. Thank God I haven't it for many decades, but that's sheer hell. But the felt sense will get you out of trouble. And I'm going to put my email down here. And if you want to send me something, send it to me. I will certainly read it in the middle of the night.
I will send you a quilt patch. I'll send you one. Yeah.
What is your name?
My name is Shashi.
Shashi.
Shashi. Yeah. Thank you.
And this is an essay. I have my camera off because there's a storm brewing and my Wi-Fi is unstable.
Yes.
But you said something. Did you just say your book? Something about your book, Anne? I did.
Yes.
And you said it was like little quilts, but I didn't hear the name of the book.
Yes, it's called Drink.
Okay.
The intimate relationship between women and alcohol.
So that book was like little vignettes and different stories.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is very much that.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Who else has a question or a comment?
Who is the audience? Is this part, the two parts are several parts of your felt sense? Or is it, I mean, I'm very shy about sharing even within myself, different parts of me.
Shyness is a wonderful thing to have brought up. Well, we can be as private as we want, can't we? I have behind me diary after diary. I started writing diaries when I was 8. I now at 70 have to decide, am I going to burn them? Because I surely don't want anyone to find them. So you can be as shy as you want, but writing isn't for the faint of heart. You don't have to go public. And in fact, we cherry pick. We choose very carefully. My book is about alcoholism, my own addiction, and my mother's and my father's, amongst many, many other things, and trauma. And I chose very carefully what to say and what not to say, in that my mother was still alive. I had her permission, but it's still a big deal to go public. So you're mentioning something even more self-conscious, which is to go public with yourself. And therein, and you're right, because when we write, we discover uncharted parts of our own psyche. My whole argument is that we will get to know ourselves better, because what will emerge will surprise you. Will surprise you. You may think you know everything about yourself, but writing is an active sport. And your psyche will come to the table. And your psyche will surprise you. Memories will surprise you. Connecting the dots will surprise you. It's endlessly fun, endlessly interesting. Anyone else?
I'd like to ask, thank you so much for this. I just would like to ask what you do about the critic, or the part that comes up and says, this is everything you're talking about is crap, but not you, what you're talking about now, but when you're writing, you're like, let me just stop and go
Yes.
do the laundry instead. That's better use of myself.
Right.
How are you with that one?
Oh, it's your biggest enemy. I mean, you know, if, I don't know why I'm thinking of tennis players, because I know nothing about tennis and how people prepare for tennis, but whatever they have to do to prepare for sports, your biggest thing as a writer is to know the critic, put that critic. I have a thing that I learned from Mary Armstrong, which is basically I call her Edna, that she has had the microphone too long. I pretend we're at a dinner party and she's overpowering the other 13 people at the dinner party, and everyone wants to have her be quiet for a while. And it's the biggest wrestle, because your little voice on one side will say, your stuff is no good, no one wants to hear it, and it's worthless. And you cannot listen to that voice. You cannot listen to that voice. But it is the biggest problem with writing. The biggest. And it kept me silent as an editor of great writers, Margaret Atwood, Michael Ignatieff, Michael Dodson, for all my life. I was in my 40s before I wrote, because I heard that voice so much. And then my partner, who is a well-known writer, said, you need to write. And I just found a way. And I did it with quilt squares, exactly what I was just explaining to Shashi. I found I could do a little bit, and I'm a former quilter. Do a little bit, 500 words, fall in love with it, and then do another little bit, and then stitch them together. And the voice wasn't so bad.
Thank you. And will you either send Lynn or put in the chat the information for your writing class, just so we can all find you easily?
Yes.
Her website is in the chat.
Oh, thank you.
And Charles is going to speak.
Well, I just want to share something about the critic that a number of other people may know here as well. I learned from Ann Weiser Cornell, which is to turn toward the critic and ask, might you be worried? Are you worried? Because usually the critic is frightened and anxious, and in some way actually is trying to protect us. Is afraid, oh, we're going to fail, we're going to be humiliated. And giving empathy to the critic, well, like any part that you dismiss and you don't listen to, it doesn't go away because it needs to be heard. So even the critic needs to be heard.
Exactly.
And even a critic may even have interesting things to say. So I just want to put in that a word for that.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. The critic definitely wants to protect you. There's no doubt about it. And it's a very, very nervy thing. My book is about, my sister said, you'll never get a job again. And, you know, I wrote about my own drinking problem. It's a very dangerous thing to write. This is a dangerous enterprise.
So she was worried and was afraid you wouldn't ever work again.
Right.
Wanted to protect you from that horrible possibility.
So what I did is I wrote that out, and it's in the book. I wrote about the critic. I gave the critic a voice. So you're so right.
Yeah. Okay.
Beautiful. So Katerina, do we now go to breakout rooms?
Yes, I think Jim.
By the way, I just want to add one little tiny thing more there.
Sure.
You know, the critic says it acts kind of like parents who say, oh, you're going to fall, instead of saying, I'm afraid you're going to fall. I'm afraid you're never going to get a job. It says, you're never going to get a job.
I know.
And it doesn't say, no, I'm worried and afraid you won't get a job, which is so much gentler than you're not going to get a job, but it's so scared that it screams. Anyway, enough.
I could listen to you all day, Charles. It's so true. I had an engineer father who said to me, you can't go to art school. You can't be a creative. You'll never work. And so I didn't. And it took me years to get back here.
But you did.
I did. I did.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pam, for your note. Thank you, Charles. Could listen to you all day. We could have a great dialogue about this.
Thank you. So nice to get that response from you.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very wise.
Maybe that would be a little writing that the two of you could do together and write a little book about the critic.
Wow, that'd be fun.
Interesting possibility.
And how many people in each breakout room?
Oh, I get to choose? Oh my goodness. What do you?
2 or 3?
Oh, we definitely need 3. We definitely need 3 because you need to have a little community to talk about the experience. So I don't know how many we have. We have a couple people leaving.
Yeah. And would you like to be in one of the rooms? Or
I'd love to be.
we'll have-
Anyone who doesn't want to be should
Mm.
leave before the breakout rooms are assigned, so
Mhm.
that you don't your non-existent self doesn't take up space.
Mhm. That's wise too. Yes. Mhm.
So we'll have 3 to 4 people depending. And do you have instructions for us?
I think we should talk about the experience because, as Angie's just said, something in them froze after writing so quickly about everything. And I'm not surprised. That was a very quick thing, but you're supposed to not go in with think about going to the water. You're not going in with your net and taking all the fish from the sea. You're just skipping a stone over the water. What are the little hits of information that you can notice? Yeah, I like that. Don't let your non-existent self take up space. That was very funny.
Should we come back at 9:25?
My sense of gratitude for today, the whole month indeed. It's just sparked in me a love that I hadn't been in touch with for a while. And I'm noticing how enlivening and fun, even though some of the topics are very deep and heavy, but the writing just fun. And I have a love for it. And thank you for just bringing this to my attention. And thank you, Anne. The lightning prompts were really great.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you. It's so lovely to hear you say it was fun and that it's something you love. We were talking about who's the I in a memoir because I was saying it's a created I, right? It isn't you, it's created I. So get some fun with that one.
It's sort of like a Buddhist question, who is this I that we inhabit? So multiple.
Mary?
Yeah, I was just so thankful for your idea, your concept of the quilt, because I tend to get overwhelmed by the thought of a book. But, the idea of a quilt, just one little square put together with another one and another one. And even the idea of going, to to a coffee shop and hearing a conversation and writing that down somehow, that's like finding a new piece of quilt fabric and then making it into that square. It just feels so much more doable. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'll, if I can figure out how to do it, I will send you my most recent piece of writing, which is very quilted. You can actually see the pieces in it.
Great.
I don't know how to, I'll try and figure out how to, I guess if I sent it to Katerina, she could send it out.
That brings up something that I wanted to ask Lynn. Sometimes, Lynn, you say that you're going to send us something, but I never get anything that you
I
send.
don't either. Right.
So I don't know how to get on your list.
Well, it may be that I say it and then I forget.
No.
So just write to me and say, Lynn, I didn't get such and such.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think there is a Help for Helpers list, and I'm not on it either. I never get anything either, but other people do. So,
You don't, please write to me if you don't get the weekly.
If you got the announcement for today, then you're on the list.
In our group, one person brought out the idea of the use of humor and how to bring in the use of humor, and is it deprecating, and do women use humor in a deprecating way? In the past they have, and I just wondered, Anne, what your thoughts on that are, because sometimes I feel I'm very heavy in my writing, and I appreciate when humor can be brought in, and I'm thinking about that, just thinking about it.
Humor is got to be one of our arrows in our quiver for sure. It's similar to using short sentences as well as long sentences, so you have a staccato feel. I believe that writing, that we hear writing, I edit with my ears, and so the lilt, the musicality of writing, and humor is similar. It's you know, it changes the tone and reduces the claustrophobia of being a space, a writing space that we may be maybe we can't sustain our attention. So to write with humor is a real art, and if you have that, I feel that I've worked on it. It is an art. And those who can do it are blessed. Some more than others, much more than I can.
Thank you.
I brought it up because I tend to write and speak funny, and it's not always appropriate, and you have to know your audience. And I find with memoir writing, here's an ad. I'm going to be presenting my graphic memoir on September 4th here, and I'm obsessing about this group and will I be gotten by this group, and I'm often more irreverent than this kind of earnestness that pervades this subculture that we're in. And I'm not earnest, and I really can go in a different kind of a direction, even towards cynicism. And so I'm trying to be myself, but also not be offensive, not be cast asunder by more earnest and solemn people than I am. And so we talked a bit about that in the breakout room, and how I tend to make things funny, but then you were talking about your writing about alcoholism, and I mean it's just hard to know the tone, you know, of when people are talking about very serious things. And just to conclude, I have begun to realize that to a certain extent, my making fun of things is a form of privilege.
Good point.
That I get to do that. And if I had been sunk in certain life situations, I don't know that I would think they were so funny.
Well, I would respond by saying this. There's a lot that's funny in my book, Drink. And that may not sound like a funny book, but there is a lot that's funny. I think that you need two things to write. You need voice, and it sounds like you have your voice in life and in writing. You need voice, distinctive voice, and you need a story. Those are the two things you need. And not everybody, lots of people put, as I talked about earlier, put their fishing, bucket in the ocean and try and capture everything. For instance, in Drink, there's only 2 scenes from my childhood. A lot happened in my childhood. There's only 2 scenes. You have to skip a stone. You have to know how to skip and just take the high points. And so if you've got voice and can tell a story, 2 very hard things, you're golden. And that's the challenge. Those are the challenge. And it sounds like you have voice and you have a story. And you can't please everyone. But if it's distinctive to you, if it's authentic in yours, then wrap those hands around it and love it.
Wow.
I want to sort of second that we're all like particular kind of dishes to eat, and people like different things and different flavors and different combinations of spices. And we can't all like the same flavors, the same tones, the same ways. And it would be so boring if we all had just the right amount of cynicism, earnestness, whatever.
I want to say, first of all, bring it on, Liz. I've been looking forward to you doing one of these groups for us. But the other thing I wanted to say was I notice when I do writing prompts and do them with other people writing, that there's the one interaction, right? Like the way that I write with my son and his friends, and my son comes up with these really, Liz, you couldn't come near the offensiveness and grossness of the prompts that he gives us. And I kind of write there, it's my voice, but it's influence. There's the one interaction, and it's not just me on the page, but it's who I'm writing with too. So I'm noticing your comment about our kind of one interaction or our zygus or whatever, and is that more serious than? And it sounds like, I would say, what you are bringing to it, which is part of our subculture, is your vulnerability and being able to being open and sharing. And that's very much in keeping with our culture here.
Thanks, Laura.
Just reflecting on how much I appreciate this group because of all of the different, very, very different idioms and flavors and tones and perspectives. I think it's just about time for Dorothy to read our poem. And I again want to thank you so much, Anne.
Welcome.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
This poem is The Laughing Heart by Charles Bukowski. Your life is your life. Don't let it be clubbed into dank submission. Be on the watch. There are ways out. There is a light somewhere. It may not be much light, but it beats the darkness. Be on the watch. The gods will offer you chances. Know them. Take them. You can't beat death, but you can beat death in life sometimes. And the more often you learn to do it, the more light there will be. Your life is your life. Know it while you have it. You are marvelous. The gods wait to delight in you.
Beautiful. It's such a beautiful conclusion for our morning.
Wow.
If you want a real treat, go on YouTube and listen to Tom Waits reading it. It's worth it.
I'll write that down. What's the name of the poem again?
The Laughing Heart.
And who's the reader that you're recommending?
The musician, Tom Waits, W-A-I-T-S.
W-A-I-T-S on YouTube. Okay.
It's great.
Thank you. Wow.
Okay. We'll see you next week for another writing adventure.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, thanks.
Thank you.